Honestly, I genuinely thought that we had learned our lesson after the clean girl aesthetic. You know, the beige, hyper curated, expensive skincare, wake up at 5 a.m. to drink chlorophyll water type of aesthetic. The one that convinced women that perfection was somehow a personality trait. But apparently, we haven't. Because now TikTok influencers have done once again what they always do. They take another lifestyle, this time of the strange, witchy, artsy girl who is looking for depth, for meaning, for beauty, and for slowness in her life, and have stripped all this meaning of this lifestyle and repackaged it and just slapped another name onto it. And now, once again, we find ourselves fighting through Amazon storefronts, affiliate links, and also extremely curated starter packs with the word whimsy slapped onto it. And to everyone who is being influenced into becoming more whimsy, I have to ask you guys, is your sense of self really so fragile that you need people online telling you what candles to buy, what books to read, what hobbies you need to do, and also what clothes you need to wear in order to live a meaningful life? And at this point, we have to ask ourselves, are you consuming in order to build a more meaningful life, or are you actually buying into another aesthetic? Hello, my gorgeous viewers and readers. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I hope your weekend was filled with beautiful food markets, handmade treasures, and the slightly devastating realization that your lifestyle has somehow become social media content. Because today I want to talk about something that has not so quietly been bothering me for the past few weeks, and it's the sudden rise of the whimsy lifestyle on social media. And let me be clear, I have no issues against whimsy or against the whimsy lifestyle. In fact, I will go as far as to say that many of you are craving exactly what whimsy represents, which is the creativity, the connection, the slowness, the beauty, and also the sense of grounding. What concerns me is how quickly social media has taken this very real human desire and has turned it into something that can be profitable. Because when we take something that has meaning and we turn it into an aesthetic, it oftentimes stops being about fulfillment and it starts being about consumption. To understand why the word whimsy is now everywhere, we need to look into cultural cycles. Things like fashion, aesthetics, or media are deeply cyclical. And right now, we are at a huge period of nostalgia due to all the geopolitical instability and economical recession that our generation is going through. So, obviously, we have a massive resurgence of aesthetics like the Y2K or the 90s maximalism, the boho, or a medieval inspired fashion as well. It seems to be very popular nowadays. And more specifically, we also see a resurgence of the vintage mysticism that is deeply connected with aesthetics like whimsical. Whimsical, for those who are unfamiliar, is an aesthetic that is deeply rooted in things like celestial imagery or vegetation and flowery textiles, but also flowy fabrics, things like very chunky jewelry, but also very rich toned jewelry as well. Things like mysticism, religion, witchcraft, tarot, paganism, and also gothic femininity screams very whimsy goth. I would say whimsy goth is the elder, cooler, more gothic sister of cottagecore, for those who get my drift. Think of media like Practical Magic, Charmed, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Stevie Nicks. She is the mother of whimsy goth, but also any sort of 90s occult paganism and femininity. That is exactly what whimsy goth is. But this is not a new concept. This has happened many times before with other aesthetics like fairycore or cottagecore or dark academia or coquette or even clean girl aesthetic, as I mentioned earlier. All these aesthetics have gone through the same process of identification, repackaging, and then consumption. Because what they are trying to do to you is they are not trying to give you an aesthetic that you identify with, but they are trying to give you an aesthetic that you can only perform. What makes this trend so fascinating, but also so incredibly frustrating, is that beneath all these velvet skirts, all these herbal teas, all these how to be more whimsy TikToks, there is something very real happening. Because this aesthetic is not just about looks, it's not just about clothing, it's not just about aesthetics, it's about collective burnout. We are watching an entire generation of people, especially young women, become increasingly exhausted by the everlasting pressure of optimizing themselves. We have to be skinnier than ever, toned than ever, looking better than ever, having the best skin that we could have, the best hair that we could ever desire. We need the best clothes. We need the best room. We need to look our best, and we need to act our best in order to feel like we are the best, in order to feel like we are at eye level with everyone else. And I think this is why there are so many people who are suddenly realizing that trying to perfect themselves under capitalism is not freedom. It's exhausting. And this is why they are looking for something that feels softer, that feels more comforting, that feels magical, that brings back the joy that they had lost. And this is why there are so many people who are going back into whimsy, because that is what whimsy offers you. After years of hyper-curated content, people are not buying stuff anymore because it just doesn't offer any sort of release. That is why there are so many people who are jumping onto the more whimsical aesthetics, because it offers something that all these highly curated aesthetics can never offer, which is, again, relief. Because I would say all these whimsical aesthetics give something or have a deeper cultural meaning amongst all of us individuals, which is it shows us that people are burnt out with social media and everything that social media represents right now. Because if I look into what social media looks like right now, we see all these like very extremely competitive areas, right? We see all these hustle cultures where people are constantly trying to hustle for more money with Amazon storefronts, for example, or monetizing hobbies, for example. Also, we see constant self-surveillance, right? We see all these body checks or all these how what I eat in a day, or what's the outfit of the day, or what do I do every day. Also, we see how all these like all these cycles of series and trends that are just algorithm driven. And also, the most important, at least for me, is all the emotional emptiness that comes with constantly doom scrolling. If we look into all these lifestyle social media that we see on TikTok specifically, we see how all these rules or all these aesthetic rules are just another form of control, right? And everything is carefully curated. We see all these super sleek buns, or all these expensive serums, all these green juices and air-worn smoothies that people love, all these Pilates and reformer classes that make you apparently shredded, and all these extreme diets that make you super lean, right? All of these are nothing but a form of control. And this is exactly why people are jumping onto the other side, or the other side of the coin, which is the more whimsical and more freeing aesthetic. And in many ways, I understand why this aesthetic is so seductive and so attractive, because it shows up as a rebellion towards the status quo, which is obviously the clean girl, super perfectionist aesthetic, right? And what you want as a person is you don't want this sort of manufactured life. You're looking for something that feels real, something that feels straight stranger and something that makes you lose control a little bit. Something that you cannot control is something that feels imperfect, and that even sometimes it feels ugly. But here is where things become deeply ironic, because while people are starting to crave authenticity, social media influencers are realizing this craving and they are slowly changing their social media strategy. If we look at all these influencer social media strategies of 2, 3 months ago, like I don't even have to go that far, right? If we look into 2, 3 months ago, we see all these insane content they were producing regarding Coachella, right? All the highly curated outfits that they were creating or that they were bringing, all the content of them being in Coachella, all the events that they were visiting, all the free stuff that they got from brands, right? All of this is highly curated at the end of the day. Even though they can show you all these party girl lifestyles, at the end of the day, these are highly curated, right? They still are acted and they are still showing you a small part of their reality. And this is exactly why people were so unbothered about what was happening in Coachella or all these outfits, because no one cares anymore, because everyone is aware that all this content is fake, and they are becoming more and more skeptical of what these influencers are doing, what they are showing, but also more specifically, what they are advertising to you. So what happens now? Well, influencers will obviously pivot to keep grabbing your attention, right? So instead of selling you this highly curated perfection, they sell you highly curated imperfection. This is why we have so much more content of messy stories, or all these messy girl aesthetics, or all these imperfect makeup, and all these fails that make you feel like all these influencers are real and they are living this very real lifestyle, because what they want you is for you to like them back once again so they can keep selling you stuff. Because don't get me wrong, even though they are showing you that they go thrifting or that they go to really cheap bars in order to get smashed, or that they do their own makeup instead of having a makeup artist that does it for them, what they actually are doing is still doing the same shit, because the Amazon storefront link is over there. All the other affiliate links are still there. All the serums and the makeup bags and all these makeup products that they have been selling you for ages are still in those videos. They are still selling you the same thing. So what they are doing is repackaging consumerism, because the message is not anymore buy this to be perfect, it's buy this to become authentic. And this is an incredibly powerful psychological shift, because instead of showing you perfection, what they show you is relatableness, right? Now suddenly these influencers are relatable. Now you can feel like as if you are the influencer, right? Or as if this really famous person that you see on your screen is someone that you can feel connected to, that you have this sort of relationship. So therefore you become more trusting of her or of them, and therefore you will buy more, you will trust their ads more. Suddenly this influencer doesn't feel like an unreachable ideal. She actually feels like you. She feels messy, overwhelmed, searching for something, right? And this is why the word whimsy or the whimsy lifestyle feels so comforting and feels so idealistic, because this is something that you can achieve. It's something that doesn't have to be perfect, and something that you can actually reach to. And the reason why this shift is happening is very simple, and it's that people are overstimulated. We live in an era where there's constant information overload, there's constant notifications, there's constant scrolling. We see constant information going around everywhere. We have multiple screens going on at the same time. We have the TV, we have our laptops on top, we also have our phones. We are constantly being bombarded by information, and people are overwhelmed. So naturally, people are starting to crave all these analog experiences again, or all these hobbies that don't require a screen. The most popular ones that I have seen are things like journaling, reading actual physical books rather than using a Kindle, for example, scrapbooking, baking, sewing, cross stitching, gardening, crafting, thrifting, all these sort of things that actually have something to do with touching physical media. And what all these analog hobbies do is they ground you back to reality. They make you feel present and they make you feel real. Because if you're constantly scrolling on your screen, for example, on your phone or on your laptop, everything that you're consuming, everything that you do doesn't really feel real because you are not having the corporeal sensation, right? So that's why there are so many people who are going onto analog or who are actually just starting hobbies all over again because they want to feel grounded. They want to feel connected to real life. But obviously, social media has to get in the middle of it, and suddenly every analog experience becomes a spectacle. We see how all these hobbies suddenly turn into an aesthetic themselves, or they become something that is performative. For example, we have talked many times in this channel how reading has become an aesthetic and how reading has become performative and a competition. Or we see things like journaling, how suddenly there are millions of little things that you can buy in order to make your journaling or scrapbooking experience much better or much better looking rather than doing something that feels meaningful for you, right? Suddenly, all these little activities and all these little hobbies that were meant to be grounding or that were meant to be creative, suddenly they are performative once again. They are created for social media. And here is where performative whimsy emerges. And the best example of it is the analog bags. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but genuinely, this is the craziest thing that I have seen on TikTok in a long time. So for those who don't know, analog bags are just massive bags where people stuff all their analog experiences or all their physical hobbies, right? So they put cameras, they put journals, scrapbooking materials, jewelry making materials, crochet, anything under the sun that you can think that is analog and that is a hobby that is creative, they will stuff it in their bags, right? So then you see these absolute monstrosities of analog bags that are probably like either 5 to 10 kilos, and they just carry it around. They just show to the world how much of an analog enjoyer they are, rather than actually bringing one or two in order to distract themselves. They just bring anything and everything under the sun in order to show everyone else how much cooler and how much more disconnected from social media they are. Because let's be real here for a moment. Like, let's actually look into one of these analog bags and think, in one day, how much stuff can you actually do? Let's say you are going out with your friends for a whole day. You are going on a trip, on a day trip to a town that is 2 hours away. Okay, surely you will do some sort of analog activity during the train, right? So either you're doing some sort of crocheting whilst you talk with your girls, or you have some cards and you play cards for like 2 hours in the train, right? On the way there and on the way back. So for 4 hours, you're doing some sort of analog activity. What afterwards? Like, what are you doing afterwards? Are you actually doing every single activity or every single analog activity that you have brought for the next hour or for like the rest of the time that you are spending with your friends? Are you actually watercoloring for like an hour? Are you reading the book that you bought? Or are you doing jewelry making for an hour with your friends? Are you actually doing everything? It does not make sense for you to bring all this stuff. Generally, you are just bringing it in order to show that you are cool and that you are more disconnected and therefore more whimsy than everyone else. And don't get me wrong, all these analog bags and all these whimsy things that you are adoring right now, all these things have been sold to you by an influencer. All these jewelry making kits, all these super romance high fantasy books that you have seen on TikTok that have become viral have been sold to you by influencers, or all these crocheting kits, or all these Leo card games that an influencer has created. All of these have been sold to you by influencers because you have been influenced. At the end of the day, you don't want the real whimsy. What you want is the performance of whimsy. You want to feel like you have some sort of control in your life, that you have the sense of freedom, that you have the sense of grounding. But what is actually happening here is that you are falling onto ads once again. And this ad is selling you the idea of freedom. And what are you buying right now? You're buying all the lace skirts, all the funky colored tights, all the vintage mugs, the artisan journals, all the things that you see everywhere that have such funky colors. They have so many buttons, or they are apple shaped. You are buying all these things because you see your favorite influencers buying them. That is exactly what you're doing. And that is why everyone looks the same. Everyone has the same hobbies. And at the end of the day, in 2 years, or like in a year even, you will be bored of this aesthetic, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is performing. And this someone else is profiting from your dissatisfaction. But if you truly want to feel more whimsy, you have to look inwards. You have to ask yourself, what makes me feel grounded? What makes me feel joy? What are the things that fill me with childlike wonder? Maybe it's baking. Maybe it's painting or gardening. Maybe it's doing strange DIYs or strange experiments. Whatever rocks your boat. But at the end of the day, whimsy is not something that can be bought. It's something that is built, and it's something that lies within you, that you have to ground yourself, and that you have to build yourself from the ground. It cannot be bought. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Now, before you leave, there are two things I would love to ask you. The first one is that if you like this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe. And then you can also follow me on my social media. I post there every day. Now, the second thing I would love to ask you guys is, what are the things that make you feel truly whimsy? For me, it's sewing and DIYing clothes. I love cutting stuff, like dyeing or bleaching them, and just make them look different. It's something that gives me so much joy, and it's something that I actually want to go back into, and hopefully during this summer I will. But yeah, that is the one thing that I truly enjoy, and that makes me feel so whimsy, especially when I wear them, even though sometimes and very oftentimes they look quite like shit, but I just love doing all these strange things to my clothes. But yeah, that is my one whimsy activity that makes me feel really great. So I would love to know, what are the things that make you whimsy and that make you feel truly happy. But yeah, that's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.